Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and I want to welcome you back to another edition of your Adrenal Fix. Today, I want to talk to you about 8 reasons why ketosis didn't work for you. I know a lot of you are looking into going ketogenic, or I'm going keto, or I'm eating a lot of healthy fats, and I'm not eating any carbs, and I heard it's bad for adrenal fatigue, or I heard it's good for adrenal fatigue. I heard you shouldn't do it for adrenal fatigue. What's the deal? And what I tell patients is it's a good way to try to become metabolically flexible, meaning your body doesn't know how to tap into stored body fat. It only burns glycogen and it becomes a vicious cycle, and it causes insulin resistance, it causes reactive hypoglycemic conditions, it causes you to continue to go on fatigued. It causes you to continue to crash in the middle of the day. It causes you to continue to have anxiety and stress and not being able to deal with it very well. So it is a really viable thing to be able to add to your toolkit in terms of becoming more energetic, being able to repair your cells, being able to get them to breathe healthy, and to be able to detox and repair and regenerate and deal with stress, and being able to maintain homeostasis and be able to cool down on a hot day, or be able to warm up on a cold day, or to be able to stand up and not get heart palpitations or feel like you're going to faint. Those are basic things that are not happening because ultimately your cells aren't doing a good job of breathing and handling stress. So it goes deeper than the adrenals, really. But let's talk about what I wanted to talk to you about is 8 reasons why ketosis didn't work for you. Number 1, you exceeded your glucose threshold. So what does that mean? It means that on ketosis, or becoming ketogenic and burning healthy fats as a fuel, if you take in too much glucose, you're going to cause your insulin levels to rise, and insulin is the nemesis of ketosis. So anytime you have an insulin spike, you can imagine any healthy fats that you're going to use for energy, which are called ketones, is not going to be able to be utilized. And in some people, that could be 25 grams. In some people, it may be 50. For those that are keto-adapted, they can get up to 75 to 100. Suffice it to say, if you never got into ketosis, you were probably exceeding your glucose threshold. Number 2, you exceeded your protein threshold. So a lot of mistakes that I see are people go ketogenic and they think it's a paleo type of diet, and it's not. If you eat too much protein, you're going to exceed your protein threshold, and that's going to present a gluconeogenic situation, which basically means in English, you are going to start to utilize your protein as glucose. And that's going to cause you to exceed your glucose threshold. It's going to cause too much insulin, and then your ketone bodies are going to go down. And so what we typically recommend is figure out your body weight, figure out your percentage of lean weight. So if you have a 200-pound person and they weigh, they have 20% body fat, then they have 80% body lean. 80% times 200 is what, 160, and then you figure out 0.7 grams per lean pound of body weight. So I would times 160 times 0.7 and figure out what that is. I mean, half of 160 is 80, so you're going to be at about 100 grams of protein for that person. If they eat a lot more than 100 grams, then they're going to break their ketone bodies, and they're going to raise their insulin levels. The third thing is they're not eating enough healthy fats. So figure, if you're keeping your carbs to about 50 grams and you're keeping your healthy, your proteins to about 100, you have a lot of extra calories to make up to maintain your metabolic rate, and that could be somewhere in the 150 to 200 grams of healthy fats per day. And you're nowhere near that, and you're not even sniffing ketosis because you're not getting enough of those healthy fats. And that's a really important thing to do. Number 4, you did not take into account stress. So I've had a patient, we talked about this, and she took her glucose levels and they were at a certain level, and then she took them a little bit later and they were higher. And she couldn't believe it. She didn't eat, she didn't do anything. Why on earth would it be higher? Guess what? Stress. Stress releases cortisol. Cortisol pumps glucose into the bloodstream. So if you're not controlling your stress and you got an adrenal problem and you're not looking at what are the sources of those stress. Are they psychosocial? Are they the job? Are they the spouse? Are they the friends? Are they the taxpayer collector? Are they the finances? Whatever those stresses are, they are causing your cortisol levels to spike, and that's going to bump you out of ketosis. So that's a really important thing to consider. Number 5, did you take into consideration your inflammation? So inflammation also causes cortisol to spike. So what happens if you have an injury? What happens if you you have an infection? What happens if you're getting a cold? What happens if you got exposed to a chemical? All of that is going to cause your cortisol levels to spike and keep you out of ketosis as well, and you need to consider that. The next thing you need to consider is, did you consider your activity levels? Perhaps you're doing too much activity that's creating more oxidative stress, and that's causing ultimately more inflammation and more cortisol and getting you out of ketosis. There is a fine line of not doing enough, which, hey, what if you're not doing any exercise? That could be a problem too. So there's a fine line of living under that bell-shaped curve and not doing too much and not doing too little and doing it just right. One of the 7th one would be probably one of the most important things that I see you guys missing is diet variation, which means ketosis works for a little bit and then it sucked. I didn't like eating 50 grams of carbs a day. I felt it was boring. At the beginning of my cycle, I always get bloated and pain, and I feel like a crazy lady, or whatever it is. At that point, it might be a good idea to get more carbs and refuel. Or, there's a time where you're sick and you're inflamed and you feel terrible, and that might be a good day to not eat anything and go into a full fast. And suffice it to say, this is a sophisticated thing, and nothing makes me more crazy when I hear someone say, okay, I'm going to do my ketosis, or I'm going to do my ketone diet, and you're not considering these things. It's not as easy as you think it is. And then lastly, did you consider your life? So what do I mean by that? Well, let's say we go on vacation and we're not as stressed. Then you may not need to, do the same type of diet. Or let's say you got a lot of jobs, a lot of responsibilities. You got a presentation. You got to clean the house. You got to, take the kids to karate. Whatever it is, you're not considering your life and how that's playing into all of this, and you need to know yourself. So anyways, I hope you got a lot of value out of this. My name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I do call myself the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and I look forward to ending your adrenal fatigue nightmare. Thank you so much.